29, we learn two new binyanim, the piel and the hiphil. So we see here the piel and the hiphil are the other two active binyanim, as opposed to passive or reflexive. Passive is like in English, I am large. It's not something that I'm doing, it's something that I am. So it's not active, as in I'm acting out an action. It's passive, as in I am that. It's also stative. Reflexive is when I'm doing something to myself. So active is when I am doing an action to something else, to an object outside of myself. So the PL and the hiphil are both active, just as the call is, and they're also the most frequent of the 7 primary binyanim after call. So let's take a look at what characterizes these binyanim. First off, the PL is characterized by a dogish in the second consonant of the shorish being the root. So there's a dogish in the second consonant when possible. Remember that gutturals and resh do not accept dogish. Let's look at two examples. Here we have the PL perfect, kibates, he gathered. Notice the dogish in the second radical, the second root letter of the shorish. And then the imperfect, yekabates. So here we have a dogish in the second consonant of the root, right here in the bait. So this is characteristic of the PL. Also note the vowels. PL itself, we see it up here, is spelled hirik underneath the pei and sere underneath the ayin. And those two vowels are characteristic of the perfect. We see them here, hirik and sere. Typically in the imperfect, the yod is spelled with a jva underneath it. Then there's a patak and a tsere, although these vowels are regularly changed. Let's take a look at the hiphil. The hiphil has a hey prefix in the perfect, and typically a patak under the prefix of the imperfect, and a hirik or tsere in the second syllable. So let's take a look at some examples. Here we have a perfect. The hey is added to the front, and there's a hirik yod after the second syllable. So this is quite clearly a hiphil with the two main signs of the hiphil, the hey, hirik attached to the front, and the hirik yod there after the second root letter. The imperfect is normally spelled with a patak underneath the yod. And again, we see that hirik yod after the second root letter. Here we have hashlech. This is actually an imperative hiphil. The hey is on the front with the patak underneath it. So that's a little different than the hirik. Just taking the patak of the imperfect. The yod of the imperfect has been removed, and the hey of the hiphil has reappeared. And then here we have instead of a hirik yod, we have a tsere that has shown up. So the imperative normally will try to shorten words. So the yod has been lost there. So those are some of the characteristics on how these binyanim are formed. You might remember that the call is normally formed with two A vowels underneath the root letters, with nothing added to the front or to the back or the middle. Here the PL is spelled with the dogish in the second root letter, and typically an I vowel and an E vowel, or an A vowel and an E vowel. The hiphil has a hey on the front when it can, and then the hirik yod or a tsere after the second syllable. Some PL and hiphil verbs clearly relate to the call verb of the same shorish, and what the authors mean by this is relate in meaning. So sometimes we can see a connection between the call form of a verb and the PL or hiphil form of the verb. Let's look at some examples. Malak means he was king. This is call. Notice the two A vowels, the comments and the patak. Malak. So this is called third masculine singular. The hiphil third masculine singular has a hey in the hirik and then the hirik yod. So those two main signs of the hiphil. And this means he made someone else king. So this is third masculine singular, but he wasn't king. He made someone else king. and it's causative. So when we have a call verb with one shorish and we put it into the hiphil adds a causative sense to it, oftentimes, but not always. Here's an example of piel. Kaved means he was heavy or he was honored, and that's in the call. And then here we have the piel, kibade, he considered someone else to be honored. He considered someone to be honored, and that someone has to be supplied, the object later on. And the hiphil, hichbid, he made someone honored, or he honored someone, or he made someone heavy. So it's adding that causative sense. The piel, many people argue that the piel adds some sort of emphaticness or intensity to the verb, but that's actually not that consistent. So oftentimes we don't make that connection at all. So there's really nothing consistent about what the piel adds to a verb. And generally, certain verbs will only occur in certain binyanim. So let's read this paragraph. But in many cases, the meanings of piel and hiphil verbs are not predictable. In some cases, the shorish is not even used in the call. Therefore, it is important to associate verb meanings with their shorish and binyan when memorizing new words. Let's take a look at some examples. Deber, he spoke, not used in call. So this is piel. There is no form of this verb in call. It is just deber, and it means simply he spoke. Tzivah, he commanded. This root is not used in call. Hishkim, he rose early, probably in the morning, not used in call or piel. It's almost always used just in hiphil. Hishlik, he threw, not used in call or piel. So this is he threw something, or you could say, I suppose, he caused something to be thrown. So when we're discussing piel and hiphil, we need to remember that the vowels are going to be changed. The doubling, the dagesh, in the second letter of the root is characteristic of piel. The added he and the hirikyod, or the tsere, after the second consonant is characteristic of the hiphil. Sometimes the meaning of the piel or hiphil is adding something to the basic meaning of the call. Other times it's not adding anything at all, and we just have to memorize the meaning of the verb in this binyan. So when we have new vocab from this point forward, it'll tell us which binyan we're looking at and how we must memorize the meaning of that word. And as we noted, many verbs don't occur in certain binyanim. So oftentimes we won't even have what we consider the basic form, the call. It'll just appear in the piel or hiphil or some other binyanim. So this is lesson 29. We're introducing two new binyanim, piel and hiphil.